We live in a world where all around us there are people who need our help. And what I want to share this morning are some thoughts on what we might learn from Jesus as to how we productively, how we best help those who need our help. During my Navy career, I had an assignment at a Navy school in Georgia. I was an instructor, but also had the additional responsibility of serving on what was called the Academic Review Board. Our task was to, when students didn't meet the academic requirements, when they were having trouble in the coursework, they would come before that board, and we had to decide how to deal with their failing. And time again, given that we could actually put people out of the program and have them go back to a regular job in the Navy, time and time again, I would make the case, give them a second chance, a third chance, kept making excuses in many instances for people who were not doing well. We were in one of those meetings one day, and the officer in charge said to me, "Merritt, you are a bleeding heart liberal." You see, what I was doing was, and he recognized it, I was not willing to take the hard steps necessary to give those students a chance to move on elsewhere and be successful. All I was doing was helping them stay in a situation where they stood no chance of succeeding. Well, the years have taught me now. My study of Scripture has taught me that even though I thought in that circumstance I was doing what Jesus would do and conducting myself in a way that reflected love and fairness, the years have now taught me that even though I thought I was acting as Jesus was acting or would act, that was not the case. So in these next few minutes, I want to share with you the thinking that I have come to now with regard to what we should learn, what we might learn from Jesus about how to best help those in need. The primary scripture is John 6:22 through 31. But what we see in that passage is what starts back when Jesus feeds the 5,000 using those 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And what I would say to us is, Jesus did not feed those people as an act consistent with his final calling. Feeding people day in and day out, physical food, was not what Jesus came to do. Feeding them was an act of expediency. He saw it as necessary in that moment, so that he could, over the long haul, do for those people what he really came to do, and that is share with them the gospel and invite them into relationship with God through him. Now, I would think that even though all of what I just said is true, Jesus had to get some satisfaction. He had to feel a bit good that he was able to work that miracle. I don't think that's any digression from a contradiction of Jesus and who he was and how he conducted himself. Imagine, you are able to, with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, feed over 5,000 people. There had to be some satisfaction, some feeling of accomplishment, at least momentarily, for Jesus. But here is what we have to remember. I think what we learn from this is feeling good about helping is not a right motivation factor for helping. See, we better be careful when we look at opportunities to help and we decide to do something that simply makes us feel good. And the danger in that is helping and being really helpful does not always feel good. So if it doesn't feel good and our motivating factor is feeling good, when the going gets tough in our helping, the human response has to be to back away. In preparation for this sermon, I had a conversation with Sue Bird at Operation Inasmuch. Many of you are familiar with Operation Inasmuch here in Fayetteville. Sue Bird founded that ministry and for many years served as executive director. And now she has moved on to be director of community engagement. I summarize the mission of Operation Inasmuch this way. It is to share the love of God with the homeless and help them be whole in every way. That's what they're about, and nobody can deny that they do an absolutely outstanding job of carrying out that mission. But in that conversation with Sue Bird, I sat there in her office and we were talking, and she said to me, "Carl," and she said it in a lamenting tone, and I could see tears starting to well up in her eyes. She said, "We bring the homeless in and serve them breakfast, and we love on them and we care for them. But then it comes time that they have the opportunity to take advantage of some of the other resources we offer. Can get some medical care, participate in classes that will help them do better in life. Go in and get some training on how to search for jobs and apply for jobs. We offer all of that, but too often, too many of them finish breakfast, and instead of taking advantage of those resources, what they want to know is, what else do you have to give me? What else do you have that is free?" Sue Bird sat there near tears. But here's the point of sharing that with you. You see, she is there day in and day out helping. But in that moment, her pain showed through, the difficulty of helping. So if she is simply helping because she's looking to feel good, no, she wouldn't be able to keep going. And that's the lesson I think we have to learn here from Jesus. There's no way he could have kept going if he was simply motivated by a desire to feel good. So let us be careful that we don't look to help others simply searching to feel good. And then those people from the 5,000 follow Jesus, and they find him at Capernaum. And they want to know from him, "Rabbi, when did you get here? Rabbi, when did you get here?" They didn't really want to know when Jesus got there. What they really wanted to know was, how did he get there without coming back past them? You see, he went away to pray after feeding the 5,000. And then those people saw his disciples get into a boat and leave. So now they find him at Capernaum, and they want to know, when did you get here? What they really, again, wanted to know was, how did you get here without coming back past us? And I encourage you to consider how Jesus answers. He does not answer. Instead, he moves on to what he wants to talk about next. And Bob Deffinbaugh says that in doing so, Jesus failed to be politically correct. You see, being politically correct in this situation, Jesus could have impressed the people even more. He could have pumped himself up. That's what we see so much of in our time. But Jesus does not do that. Instead, he moves on. And I suggest that the lesson for you and me is that in our helping, do not look to be recognized, do not look to impress others, but simply do the work that helps. That's the example I think we see here from Jesus. Did not take advantage of the opportunity to make himself look good in his helping. And here is the piece that I think we really have to learn. It's what I did not have hold of back in the 70s when I was on that academic review board. And that is, we must be able in our helping to take a hard look at the facts of a situation, and where necessary, speak truth and take actions that follow an honest assessment of what is needed in order to help. And that's what Jesus does here. Those people come asking him, when did he get there? And Jesus makes it clear, I know you didn't come here looking for some spiritual involvement. You are here because you want me to give you some more physical food. And that's what we better be aware of and be willing and able to sometimes, even when it might cause people to dislike us and not want to really hear us, we have to be able and willing. Maybe a way to put it is just call it like it is. And if we are going to help, really help, that piece is critical to the process. We then can also see that Jesus says to these people, now here's what you have to do. You must do the work of God. Must do the work of God. He is in that laying out the requirement. And he is saying, really, this is the ultimate goal. That you do the work of God. And he explains in that means you accept me, you believe on me. That was even back to the feeding of the 5,000. That was his ultimate goal. And that's why I said earlier, his feeding of them was simply an expedient act in that moment, because he knew that was necessary in order for him to help move them to the ultimate goal. And I suggest to us too, then, we need to learn from that. I think that so often we see an opportunity here that we think might help people, and we grab it. And we do something in the moment. And then we move away. What Jesus understood, and I argue that what he did was everything he did down here, every action, was in order to move people toward the ultimate end. But you see, if we decide for today, well, we'll feed some people here, and then that's what we do and we walk away, we should examine that action in light of what is the ultimate, what is it we are trying to do for people as the end result. You see, we don't seem to look at it that way. And that's that's a lot of why we end up leaving people in their difficult situation in spite of all we do. Must have been Charleston, South Carolina. I remember one Christmas I had the great idea that we would purchase a bunch of gifts and take them down to a homeless shelter. And we did it. And it felt good. I remember, I can almost see it. But I have, over the past few days, had to, as I prayed about and worked on what I'm sharing with you here, I have had to re-examine that action in light of what I am presenting here. So I went down and delivered those gifts, and people seemed excited about it and appreciated it. But here is what happened then. I went back home and did nothing more. Nothing for those people. So now, in light of this, and in light of what I have learned across the years, I'm asking myself, what was the ultimate goal that you were trying to contribute to reaching? Because all I did was leave those folk in that same difficult, challenging situation. Did not move them up. Did not give them opportunity to really help themselves. So, I think the approach of Jesus then is to have this focus on the ultimate, and then decide along the way what steps he had to take, including feeding the 5,000, to keep moving people to that ultimate goal. And then at the end of the passage that we looked at, where Jesus tells them what is required, where he has laid it out, the people want to know this whole thing of doing the work of God, of believing on him, on Jesus. They want him to show some more signs. Show some more signs. Think about what Sue Bird shared with me. They wanted to see more. People want to be given more. Jesus answers in the remaining, or in those next verses that we did not read. And in those verses, he basically says to the people, this is what's required, and this is what you have to do. And he draws a line in the sand and says, in essence, this is what you do. This is what you are called to. And I'm not showing you any more signs. No more miracles. This is it. I know that might sound hard, but there comes a point in our helping. There comes a point in our helping when that's what we must do. whether it's with children we love or people we don't even know, there comes a point when, like Jesus, we have to draw a line and hold to it. And that's not easy to do. I make no claim that what I've shared with you is everything we can learn from Jesus about helping and being productive in our helping. Very likely it just scratched the surface, but hopefully it gives you something to think about and pray on. And I say to you, if you want to see that this approach that I have ascribed to Jesus really works, visit Operation Inasmuch, talk with Sue Bird and some of the other folk over there and see how they do what they do. But be warned, I contend that what I've laid out here is the way they do it. So if you are like I was back in the 70s in that Navy school, if you think that we ought to keep just giving and not calling people to account, don't go to Operation Inasmuch, because this is what they do. Visit the lodge that they recently completed, that building where homeless men have a chance to put their lives together and move up to independent living and self-sufficiency, and see how they do it. There are rules in that place. There are requirements for those men to take action to help themselves. If you want to see this model of Jesus at work, visit Operation Inasmuch. Must have been 2 weeks ago, my wife Denise and I watched a movie called Some Kind of Different as Me. It's a true story of a husband and wife who make a real commitment and volunteer at a center, a mission serving the homeless. And the husband becomes friends with one of the homeless men. And in one scene, that husband prepares a meal in a styrofoam container. And he walks across the street and finds this homeless friend. And he presents him with that meal, and he did it obviously with some feeling of satisfaction. And the man takes the meal, and he looks into that husband's eyes, and he says, "When you give me a meal, all it says is that you see me. All it says is that you see me." In other words, you are not calling me, you are not helping me prepare to move up. All you're doing is saying, "You see me." The call today is for us to learn from Jesus how to not in our actions toward those in need simply say, "We see them." Thank you for being in worship here at First Baptist today. And it is my prayer, I hope it is the prayer of each of us, that we will go from this place with greater commitment to following the example of Jesus, the model of Jesus, in our efforts to help others. And that we will do so in such a way that our actions never say to those we seek to need or seek to help, never simply say, "We see them." God go with you and be blessed is my prayer. Have a wonderful week.